of the Power Hour. It is 8 minutes after the hour, and joining us today is Bob Chapman, the editor of the International Forecaster newsletter, one that many, many of our people depend upon, and glad that they did, because they made the wise decisions to get out of the market and into the kinds of things that can keep them relatively safe, I would say. And joining us today is the editor of the newsletter, Bob Chapman. Thank you so much, Bob, for joining us at the Power Hour.
Well, it's my pleasure, and it's very nice to be here again.
Perfect day for you to be here, as everyone is doing the happy dance in Washington today. Do you not agree?
Well, they may be doing that, but that's just for public consumption. No politician in Washington is going to come out of this unscathed. It took them too long to accomplish what they could have done in 15 minutes. And there was a reason for that.
And the reason is?
They had to jockey for position, because what this was really all about was the cutting of Social Security and Medicare. This is what the dance was all about. And finally, they got that concluded. It was the part of a compromise. Now we have to see how much they're going to cut there. Once the foot is in the door, it will continue. What will it be? No one knows. What do I think? I think they'll continue to not use COLA. I think they'll continue, as they have in the last 2 years, and probably will again this month, not increase Social Security payouts, even though the inflation is bounding along at 10.6%. They don't care. And there's two reasons for this. Less money will have to be taken from the military-industrial complex and other pet projects that they have. The second part of that, if you don't get an increase in your Social Security payment and inflation is bounding along at 10 or 15% a year, then you're losing tremendous buying power. Probably 75% of the people in America that are over 65 or 62, I should say, are living on this Social Security. And if the husband and wife are still alive, it probably runs something like $2,200 a month. And of course, when you lose one spouse, it falls. Try living on that. And on top of that, the cuts that are going to come in Medicare, we don't know what they are, but I'm sure that the co-pays will go up, and probably the cost of Medicare will go up. And they say it won't. They say that they're going to take the increases from the providers. Well, we know how much money providers provide for members of the House and the Senate toward their campaign contributions. So I don't think that's going to happen. Well, and this business, as we go forward, of having 6 men or women from each party on a committee that's going to administrate this whole program, and I'm sure it'll have to come back and be passed by Congress again. Experience with those trigger mechanisms have been dreadful. So what is it? It's 100% of nothing. I mean, they're talking about $1 trillion here, $1.5 trillion there. It's chicken feed. I mean, we got deficits as far as the eye can see of about $1.7 trillion a year. They haven't cut anything. They're not going to cut anything except the things they want to get rid of. And they were probably forced to cut defense spending as a give-up for the cuts in Social Security and Medicare. And the second part of that Medicare Social Security thing is not only the lessening in buying power, but people are not going to be able to buy the medicines that they need because they won't have the money. And also, in 2 years, you're going to have death panels. And at those panels, if you've got a disease or something's wrong with you, and you're 75, and they figure that you live to 82, and it's going to cost them $500,000 a year, they're not going to spend $3.5 million on you. They're going to tell you to go home and die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And they're already doing it in England. I mean, they have to do it. There's just no way they can continue to pay out these volumes of expenses to people who eat the wrong things, don't exercise, create their disease, and then say, hey, take care of me. So it's going to get only worse. I mean, because the field of illness is growing, and that's where we make the most of our money in this country. But aside from that, though, explain to us what was decided last night.
Well, it's nebulous at best. They're doing some immediate cuts. I guess it's about $800 billion, but it's not enough immediately. And the rest of the cuts are spread out over years. And the next Congress is going to come in and cancel them. The whole thing is ludicrous. As I said, from my point of view, when I've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks, is they want to get the foot in the door to start cutting Social Security and Medicare. I didn't hear them talk about Medicaid, the people who never paid in.
But how can they cut?
The whole thing is socialist, period.
Well, how can... This is from Lynn. Entitlements, my backside. I paid cash for my Social Security insurance, and just because they borrowed my money doesn't make my benefits some kind of charity or handout.
Well, then, get on your horse and email every member of the House and the Senate and tell them that. And say, I don't want my Social Security cut or my Medicare because I paid for it.
I mean, of all the things to cut.
I'm 76 years old in a couple of months. I have never taken a dime from Medicare. Fortunately, I'm healthy. It's just, if you have a program like that, you got to phase it out over years, at least 10 or more years. And there's many things like that have to be phased out that way. Increases in taxes, if you need them, they should be phased in over the years. If you need austerity, they should be phased in over the years. Not like in Greece where they whack you over the head in a 2-year period and cut your income in half and cut half the jobs in the country. How can Greece ever think that they're ever going to survive economically? They can't. Mm-hmm. And so these things have to be gradual, even though they may have been in place for some time. And so, people 50, 40 years old are told, look, the benefits are going to be half of what we told you about when you get there. No, they call Social Security and Medicare entitlements. They're not. They're paid for. But that's the politician's speak. That's the way the politician mind thinks. Well,
people ought to be, in the streets. I'm ready to storm the castle for a lot of other reasons. But the whole idea, though, that you have got people who are going to have their money stolen from them, whether it be 401k, Social Security, whatever, it's all the same thing. It's stolen from them and used by the government for other entitlement programs or other heads of state that they want to give the money to, called foreign aid, whatever they want to do. But, what did we actually do yesterday? What is all the hubbub about? What did they actually come to a conclusion to do? They're going to increase the budget by $2.9 trillion. The debt limit by $2.9 trillion, which everybody thinks like that's an answer. That's no answer. And then they're going to, what else are they going to do? What does this mean for us?
Well, in summation, they are going to continue the redistribution of wealth that belongs to the middle class, to the rich, and to the poor. That's what they've done. I mean, the only reason that they had to fight as hard for what they wanted here is that about 22 members of the House, including Ron Paul, of course, refused to buckle. And that's a deal they had to cut. But they weren't going to cut anything. They had no intention. Both parties. They're the enemy. And you people got to get rid of them. You replaced 87 of them in the last election with Tea Party people. Well, let's change about another 425 or 450 and get rid of them. They're all socialists or fascists.
Well,
they want your money to give it to somebody else who won't get off their dead behind every day and go to work.
But tell me you don't believe that we can just vote them out. Tell me, please, because we know there's voting election fraud. We know there is control. They determine who leaves and who stays in the positions. I mean, please tell me you don't believe that we can just vote them out like Fox News tells us.
I got a question for you. What is the alternative, young lady?
Storming the castle with plastic pitchforks. We'll be back after this 4-minute break. Stay tuned to the Power Hour. Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. We are talking with Bob Chapman today, the International Forecaster newsletter that you can get by calling 800, 686-2237, 800-686-2237. Call them and tell them you'd like to get a complimentary copy or purchase some gold from Midas, and you might be able to get an entire year's subscription, and it's well worth it, believe me. Bob, we were talking about the whatever took place yesterday. I'm still not quite sure because nobody's read it yet, and supposedly it's going to take several days for people to read it, consume it, decide if it's going to actually stick. I mean, but everybody's celebrating the stock markets. I mean, the CAC, the DAC, the FTSE, everything's going through the roof now because we made an agreement. An agreement for what? And, of course, you say an agreement for nothing, and we need to vote them all out, which we know. That's just something we say because it makes us feel good because there's nothing else to say, unfortunately.
And that's all true. Now, the anticipation is aided by the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, which is jacking the market up this morning. I saw them in the gold and silver markets last night as early as 9 o'clock at night. And the minus $12, $13, one time it was minus $16 in gold, is modified. It's down around 11 right now. And they're holding it down there. And over the next 2 days, it will turn around and go right back up again. And silver's down around 90 cents, and that'll do the same thing. And the stock market will run up 200 or 300 points, turn around and go back down again. Because all of this has been discounted. There's nothing negative about what's gone on toward gold and silver. It's positive for them because what Congress has done is virtually nothing to solve the problem, and it's the same old, same old.
It's just so confusing for people because, you know, they did an interview. I thought this was really great. John Stossel did an interview with people out front of the Fox headquarters and said, do you know what the debt limit is? Nobody knew what they meant. Do you know what the deficit means? No. They showed him a picture of John Boehner. Do you know who this is? No, nobody knew who he was. I mean, the people don't really understand this issue. I mean, the people who listen to the Power Hour, because of you and your education for them, probably are far more knowledgeable than 90% of the people in the general population. That people don't understand, so therefore they don't take any action on it and don't even realize anything other than Social Security and veterans pay. And that scares everybody, so that's supposed to be the movement into panic. But it doesn't make any sense, like you say. Nothing is making any sense. This is not an end to the problem. I mean, there are people that have an answer out there, but is the plan to just keep going the way it is now and imploding at some date, or is there going to be a planned implosion, do you think?
Well, what they've done is, as I said, virtually nothing. And, we come back to the same thing. How did this all happen? Well, it happened over a long period of time. But in recent times, what has happened is there has been a move by people who are behind the scenes, who control the politicians and control the country. And they want to bring about economic, financial, and social chaos in order to force people to accept one world government. And that's really what this is all about. All the nuances that we talk about in between are, battles that are going on. In the final war for them, the people who plan this thing, is to take over everything, run your lives, totally. And this is what we're trying to stop. Reflecting back to what you had to say about people who were stopped in the street, I saw another poll by Mark Dice about 3 weeks ago. Who do we fight in the revolution? 1 out of 15 people knew. So the ignorance of the American public is extensive, but not unusual, and not any worse than it is in any other country, because I've been there and done that, and I speak their languages. So, half the people in America, and this is a fact, are functionally illiterate. So what else would you expect? Now, the extension of that is this.
Okay, let's do it after this 3-minute break. We'll be back with Bob Chapman, and please check into the financial newsletter, The International Forecaster. We're talking to Bob Chapman today, and the subject is, what the heck happened yesterday anyway? I don't know. I don't know that anyone knows. I don't know that they know. But supposedly everybody's all happy. The markets are up. Gosh, the stock market, the Dow, is way up today, and about 101 points, and all is well. I mean, according to them, but we can't quite figure it out here with Bob Chapman. Now, Bob, you're about ready to go into something else. Go ahead and continue, would you please?
Well, I think what we're seeing in the markets now is all manipulated, and there's a number of ways that they do that, which I won't go into in detail. And you see the buying and selling in any particular area come in waves. And since the onset several hours ago, the commodity market has traded higher. The stock market's been up as much as 150 points earlier in the pre-market trading, and that was followed by S&P, which was slightly behind it. And now at 9:30 Eastern Daylight Time, which is about 8 minutes ago, the plunge protection team attacked gold and silver again. And they'll probably do this all day because they don't want gold and silver up during a euphoric day for the economy and the market.
And why is that?
Because it reflects the fact that all the gobbledygook that they're putting out isn't working, and people are seeing right through the facade, that facade being a make-believe market, a make-believe economy, a make-believe House of Representatives and the Senate, an illegal alien make-believe president, and on and on and on. And so they have to do that to psychologically put off balance people who understand the function of gold. Look, the public doesn't know. They don't even look at gold. All they know is they put it in jewelry. And so, you have 50 to 60% of the public that's missing almost everything. Now, occasionally they get smart and say 75% of wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve because it's become obvious what the Federal Reserve is. But other than some things like that from time to time, they don't understand anything. They think they're smart, but they're not. And that's even more tragic. And, of course, the school systems don't teach them anything either. And that's generally true throughout the world. Now, what's going to happen here, the market rally will last a day or two and then start to fade again. and we're going into the summer doldrums. August is a month everybody in Europe takes off. That's the end of that. And then there are vacations in other parts of the world. And so it's a very, very slow month. So what they try to do in months like that is hold the market up if they can without spending too much money and try their best to keep gold and silver down. But in the last 2 weeks of August, jewelers and jewelry manufacturers start committing themselves to how much gold and silver they'll need for production during the months of September, October, November. And, of course, they're taking orders already, so they have an idea. Most people don't know anything about that. Well, now you do. That's how that sector of the gold-silver world works. And they say that perhaps 70% of gold and silver is used in jewelry, but what they don't tell you is that about 3/4 of that jewelry is 24-karat gold bangles, which are purchased throughout the world, but not in the United States and Europe, generally speaking. And that's where it's going. It's not really jewelry. It's a way of keeping gold or hoarding gold. And so this will last a couple of days, and that'll be it.
Well, they buy gold also and silver. So, I mean, the question is always asked, well, why do they hurt themselves by suppressing the price of gold and silver?
Because the suppression is far more necessary on the short to intermediate term than the value of the holdings of their gold. They know by what they're doing and have done, particularly over the last 11 years, that the values of them are going to go higher. And they want to moderate that increase, if they can, to perhaps 10% a year. That's wishful thinking, but that is their goal. And they know that somewhere along the way, they're not going to be able to control it anymore. It's going to spin out of control, and gold's going to go to 5,000 or 8,000. Silver's going to go to 200 or 400, wherever they're going. They know that. And so they hold gold and silver personally as an anchor. How much do they own? Nobody knows. How much do I think they own? In gold, probably 20% of above ground inventory. And I've been doing this for almost 53 years. And so I got a pretty good handle on that. But it's part of their insurance system. Because if things go totally awry, they figure, well, we can use that to finance another war, or we can buy our way out of whatever we're faced with. And that's their thinking on that. It's an insurance policy. But in the short term, they want it down because it's a reflection of what's going on, which is not good. It's not good for them, so they suppress it.
Well, now I know that a lot of people like Jim Otika, who does a lot of provides a lot of information for us at the Power Hour on financial issues, said that he fully believes that it's going to be somewhere around, I think, the middle of 2012 when things really take a downturn. And I'd like to open up the phone lines and see what other people have as far as questions go on this issue. If it's, when is it going to come to a screeching halt? Because it has to. I mean, it just absolutely has to. There's no doubt about it. We cannot continue to live in this environment of, spend anything and everything on fake money. So let's open up the phone lines. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. We still hear the discussion about bank holidays or, downgrading the dollar or downgrading the value of the dollar. What are your thoughts about a potential crash? I mean, we still got lots of banks that are failing, but nobody's talking about it, so it's kind of like, oh, well, it's not that bad a deal. But it still is, though, is it not?
It certainly is. And, again, they control the media, and in doing so, they control the consumption of information. And if they're not talking about it, well, It's not happening. But what do you think they come out on Friday night with the banks that have gone under? Last weekend it was 5 of them.
Wow.
And so, the public doesn't understand the import of that. They don't have the intellectual capacity, or they haven't gone on to higher education and tried to understand those kind of things. Not that they're not capable, some of them. And so, again, people are easy to brainwash. They're easily propagandized. And there's a lot of instances of this. It goes on all day, every day. That's why we have this program and programs like it, to tell the people what's really going on out there and allow them to make the correct decisions to protect their lives and their fortunes.
Well, what can we plan on? We know there's going to be, and we know everybody should be getting food right now, because we know there's going to be a huge problem soon. You can't have everything flooded or droughted out and the animals die and expect that things are going to go on as usual, because other countries are going to be hoarding what food they have, not sending it on ships over here from China. We are going to have to depend upon whatever we have. And that's why I encourage everybody, of course, to get storable food. And I encourage everybody to get Heartland Emergency. And I do mean that, because I think they've got the best out there. They're best people to deal with. And I just want to give a shameless plug here at 830-431-1776, 830-431-1776, because they don't pay me to say that. I have to admit, they do give me some dried beans. But I appreciate people going to heartlandemergency.com. Other than storing up food, because I do believe that we are going to be in a world of hurt when it comes wintertime. Your thoughts on that?
Boy, I agree with you completely, and it's the first thing I tell people to do, because you never know when you're going to be unemployed, whether you'll be able to eat, whether the food will be available, whether you'll be in your home, whether you'll have vehicles, whether you'll have a job, and whether you will be living under a bridge someplace. And so it's just like buying insurance. You buy the food, you get your filter, and you're able to defend you and your family. And those are the bottom line things. You've got to do them. And for those who don't have the money to do it, well, buy an extra can of something or other, or two. Each time you shop, just rotate them. As long as you're out of them within 2 years, you're all right. And buy things that you normally eat. And the same is true with dehydrated and freeze-dried foods. I've eaten goo-gobs of them, because I've been doing this since the 1960s. So this is my third set, so to speak, of food for emergencies. Mm-hmm. And my whole family has it. We have 2.5 years supply. And in the other items, we've got 3 filters, and I wouldn't come belligerently toward my house. You may not ever return.
I wish everybody could say that. I wish everybody could say that for sure. All right, let's go to the callers. A lot of people want to talk to you. And, John, I apologize. I only got a few of the names, but let's start with Andrew in California. Andrew in California, you're on the air with Bob Chapman. You're first up. Go ahead, please.
Bob, I think there's a bill that would allow the president to take control of Americans' retirement accounts. Do you know the status and number on that bill?
There is no number. The status is sitting in committee. It's been there for 2.5 years. It was put together, created, promulgated by the Rockefeller Foundation and others of that ilk, and carried on by the New School, which is nothing but a communist apparatus in New York City and always has been. And that's been financed by the Rockefellers as well. They finance both sides of everything. And so that's where the bill came from, and that's where it's there. And what they want to do is exchange private retirement accounts in exchange for a government-guaranteed annuity. Well, the government's broke, so I don't think the annuity is very good. And they want to get a hold of that, and then they're going to have it managed by Wall Street so they can get their piece of the action. And that's the way they'll continue to run markets and keep them up like they were levitating. And so that's their idea. There's another bill in the Senate, no number, put in by two senators, both of whom are retiring this next time instead of running for re-election. And that would limit the amount and how many times you can take money out of your retirement. Because the government doesn't want the money to come out because they want to use it just like they did with the money from Social Security and Medicare that went in the general fund. They stole it. That's what they want to do.
And they want to steal all the retirement funds. I mean, it's already happening in Europe. It's happening in Europe. You know, one thing real quickly I wanted to add, Cynthia just sent me a story that if you demand the government to resign, it is now considered terrorism. So and they're taking this off of the suspected Norway gunman who demanded the government's resignation. And he said that during an interrogation. Allegedly, we know all about this alleged Norway gunman. However, that may make you a terrorist. Just think about that. Let's go to John in Ohio. John, you're on the air. Go ahead, please. Bob Chapman.
I really support much of what goes on in GCN, but at the same time, I think there's a cancer on the economic position of many on GCN. This whole idea that the problem is the deficit when we're spending trillions of dollars to kill people around the world. We're spending trillions of dollars to bail these crooks on Wall Street that destroyed the lives of millions of people. And also the idea that somehow this is socialism. This is crazy. I read socialist outlets like WSWS.org. They are totally against any of this kind of warmongering, this banking, and also the attacks on Social Security and Medicare. And I would add Medicaid, because people on Medicaid are also a victim of these bankers and the huge unemployment that it's caused. None of this has to be even touched. It should be expanded.
Okay, wait a minute. Where is the cancer at Genesis?
The cancer is calling for these policies of the bankers and the military-industrial complex. Socialism, the false socialist in Europe, just as Hitler did, he stole that label because it was very popular in Europe.
Okay, but where is I still don't get it. Where is the cancer at Genesis? I don't see how you can extend that to Genesis.
For instance, you'll never have WSWS.org on, a socialist organization. But
what do you mean I won't have them on? I'll have them on. I have no problem with that. I think you're a little bit accusatory here without perhaps valid reason. But hang through the break. It's 50 after the hour. We'll be back with Bob Chapman, and I'll have him on. Tell me who to have on. I'm not going to have just WSWS. Give me a person. We'll be right back after this 3-minute break. Welcome back to the Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. It is 54 minutes after the hour. Bob Chapman is our guest today. Financial newsletter, theinternationalforecaster.com. You can go to the website, theinternationalforecaster.com, or you can call Midas at 800-686-2237, 800-686-2237. Tell them you would like to check out the newsletter. Or if you buy some gold, they have a program set up where you can get the year subscription to the newsletter for free. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So give them a call, 800-686-2237. Let's go back to John in Ohio. John, I will have them on the air. Who is it that I should talk to at WSWS?
Bill Van Auken, possibly. I'm trying to think of names on their site.
Okay, why don't you email me?
No, wait a minute. I've already done that. Bill Van Auken, I mentioned to you. I've done that. And also Patrick Martin and others. You can look up the names just by checking WSWS.org.
Well, I mean, I'd like to know who's the best.
Bill Van Auken. Bill Van Auken. I've already sent you a letter to that effect and how to get in touch with them. So what I'm saying here, though, is I think that the Genesis and these ultra-rightists really on the economic issues, you do good work on the conspiracies and the vaccines and the police state, But on the economic issues, you are totally in the spectrum of the Wall Street interest, the bankers.
No, you know what?
And all of those who say that we can't afford it. These old people just don't take care of themselves. We have to cut them. That is exactly the position of the International Monetary Fund worldwide. And
okay, stop for just a second. That's not our position. That's not my position. That is not my position. Surely you have heard my position on that. But I do not believe that we should be paying people to eat incorrectly, get overweight, obese, get diabetes, get cancer, and then say, hey, take care of me. I do not believe that is right. I believe that there are people that should be rewarded for taking care of themselves. And I appreciate your sort of support for the Power Hour, but, it would be nice if you would support the Power Hour also, John. I mean, rather than just using the podium here, it would be nice if you supported us also. Thank you very much for the phone call. Your response to that, Bob Chapman?
I think that you're right, but, I think the very simple answer to that is let's tax the bankers. I mean, they make billions and billions and trillions of dollars. Let's increase the tax and let them fund Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and all the other things that would be helpful to people who didn't do the right thing or maybe did do the right thing, in leading up to older age. So I think that could be a solution. Unfortunately, all of the people in Congress, except for a handful, are bought off by these same bankers. So you're not going to get any legislation passed to fix that problem. And so you're right back to where you were before.
Well, I think that war is wrong, absolutely wrong. We shouldn't be spending any money. They're not. It's not war. It is our illegal intervention in other people's lives, which we should not be doing in the first place. Let's go to Dave in Arkansas. Dave in Arkansas, or wait a minute, John in Missouri. John in Missouri, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I was born and raised in Illinois, so I was home over the weekend. I was talking to a buddy up there. He informed me that farms were selling at record prices. Farmland just sold for $12,500 an acre. He said there's a farm that's coming up. Yes. He said this is some good farmland. He said there's some good farmland that's coming up for sale. They're expecting it to bring $13,500. I said, can you make money on that? He said, no, it's old money buying land because they're getting no interest in the bank.
Whoa.
So they're running from that. So you will not, pretty soon you're going to see the gold and silver market take off if these guys keep this up.
That's amazing. It's around 3,000. It's around 2,000 here in Missouri an acre. We'll be back after this 1 minute, 10-second break. Stay tuned to the Power Hour final segment with Bob Chapman coming up. Thank you, John, for the phone call. We'll be Welcome back to the Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for caring about your world, ladies and gentlemen. And we're talking to Bob Chapman. He ought to have an honorary doctorate in finance. Too bad that he's not in Washington. Too bad he's not in charge because he certainly knows what's happening. We'd sure like to see a Ron Paul and Judge Napolitano ticket this year. I would like to see what would happen as a result of that. Let me go back to the callers here. John in Missouri, you're on the air. Dave in Arkansas, you're on the air. Go ahead, please, with Bob Chapman.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chapman and Joyce. Have y'all heard about the 1 cent penny plan to balance the budget from that representative from Florida?
The what?
It's called the McPenny plan.
No, I'm not familiar with it. Bob, are you familiar with that?
Not at all.
Okay. Go ahead.
That's why I'm on the program.
But it would cut 1% of real spending for 6 years. That was the first step, and then they have a second step. It was talked about on the Sean Hannity radio show. But it would balance the budget in about 10 years, and it would probably be better than what they're thinking about today. in the House.
Okay,
that's what I was explaining earlier, caller, and that is a gradual approach to the problems, not a steamroller effect. And I, on the surface of it, I'd have to look into it. It sounds doable. And incidentally, Joyce, a half hour ago, gold was off 18.40. It's now down $1.50. The market was up 150 points, and it's now down 35. Remember I told you it wouldn't last very long? Well, there you go.
Interesting. All right. Thank you very much, Dave. I wish we knew more about that. Please get that information to me if you would. Joyce in North Carolina, you're on the air. Go ahead, please, with Bob Chapman.
Yes, this call is for Joyce. Happy birthday to you, and may God bless you. My husband and I were talking, and we think you just had a birthday recently.
How did you know?
Well, I guess because my name's Joyce and I have a birthday around the same time as you, and he remembered it and said we needed to call. We wanted to let you know that every day is a blessing to be able to hear you, Joyce, and Bob Chapman on the radio.
I like your
thank
attitude.
You. And there's so many women out there that are 39 this year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Joyce, two Joyces, both are 39.
And when was yours?
Bob.
Yeah, when was yours, Joyce?
Mine is today.
Oh, yours is today. Mine was yesterday. Well, thank you so very much for the call. Anything else besides the kind words you wanted to add?
No, we just needed something I thought a little enlightening today. All this news is very disturbing.
Oh, well, you have a blessed day today. Enjoy every single minute of it and make some memories, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bob,
you.
Any words for us as to what people need to do? I mean, serious. It's time to get
keep on
ready.
doing what you're doing, getting that food and filter and for preparation for defense and then buying gold and silver coins, getting your free yearly subscription from Midas by buying one French franc, and they're very well priced also. And just keep after your congressman. We can always hope for miracles, and it beats doing nothing at all. And maybe we might get a Ron Paul ticket elected a year from November. Another miracle, but if it happened, we could turn the whole country around.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, it's all about taking a stand and taking a stand and taking a stand. And people, more and more of us are standing up. And I just want to thank, that was very kind of Joyce from North Carolina to call in. And I just believe that it's all about our Heavenly Father bringing the people that love the truth together. And that's where the action's going to be. Thank you, Bob Chapman, for joining us today. You have been a blessing to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet.